Hi guys, Henning and Morten from Flip Normals here. In this video we're going to be covering the new Sculptris Pro mode in ZBrush 2018. This is one of my favorite features in being added to ZBrush in a long time, so we're really excited about this. In short, what it's doing is enabling you to locally subdivide where the brush is, like this. Wherever the brush is, you will get more resolution. This is super useful if you are doing concepting or just want to experiment with some cool new designs and you just want more resolution. This is different from Dynamesh in the sense that Dynamesh will re-evaluate your model, the entire model, while ZBrush will only now add details where you put details.
Yeah, so this is a much faster way of concepting and reiterating on your models, because you don't have to wait for the remeshing to happen, the reprojection onto your mesh. You just sculpt and drag out, kind of like you're just actually adding more clay, but much more intuitively.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of things you just couldn't really do very well with Dynamesh, such as the snake hook brush. The snake hook brush will always just kind of break because it would actually run out of resolution.
It finally works.
It finally works. So now we can actually do super cool things with a snake hook brush.
After what, 15 years or so?
So you can see here now that we have we've just been dragging out here now with a snake hook brush, and this is amazing. So we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here now because we get excited about Sculptris Pro. The way you enable it is by going up here and just clicking the button.
Yeah.
You can also do this under stroke and just clicking here, or by the hotkey, which is // which is what I'm using. I'm just using the hotkey for this. Really, really handy stuff. Because a lot of times you want to do some regular sculpting, just without any Sculptris Pro enabled, and then just with it. So hotkey is really the way to go here.
Yeah, it's like once you start using the Sculptris Pro mode, you'll notice that your underlying surface will start to jitter a little bit once you start sculpting. So maybe if you're doing something on a face, you don't want to actually have the surface change at all. So it's nice using the hotkey because it makes it really fast.
Yeah. So there are two concepts here in Sculptris Pro. One is tessellation, which is what happens when you're sculpting here, just with the regular brush. And then you have decimation, which is what happens when you hit the smooth brush.
Yeah, so tessellation is essentially you're adding more subdivision, and decimation is like kind of from the Decimation Master is you're subtracting detail. Yeah,
I find these terms to be confusing.
Yeah.
Because decimation, tessellation, and then you have tessimation as well. Yeah. I just found it to be pretty annoying. So we're just going to be talking about adding points and removing points.
Also because within ZBrush, they're within the Sculptris Pro settings, they're referring to it as subdivide and undivide.
Yeah.
So they're calling it tessellation and decimation, but they're also calling it subdivide and undivide. So there's no adding detail, removing detail. Yeah. Pretty straightforward.
They're not so good with the whole terminology, making it nice and clear. This should just be more points, less points.
Yeah.
So what you can see here, though, is that the amount of details are dependent on the brush size. So if our brush size is now small here, you get a lot of details. If it's big, you don't get a lot of details, which is really handy because now you can just add details where you want to. So you want to add a little eye to this guy here. You can just start sculpting here, and you want more just details here, make this brush smaller, and then you can just start adding some purple eyelids.
This is so nice because in the past, maybe you've had to mask off parts of your object and then only subdivide the eyes, or you re-Dynamesh everything, and it takes a while because it's high res. This really allows you to really quickly just concept on stuff. Yeah. It's amazing.
So let us be clear on one thing here, though, that this here is not for production use. We made a video some weeks ago talking about how you can split up your model in ZBrush to get additional details. And let's say you want to split off the head to do this. Somebody asked us, why don't you just use Sculptris Pro mode? Perfectly valid question. Well, the reason is because this destroys your topology.
And UVs.
And UVs and everything. Yeah, this doesn't support UVs. So if you are in any kind of production, you cannot use this.
Well, I mean, you're doing concepting.
Yeah, if you're in concepting, but the moment your model is pipelined, you cannot use this. But this is a fantastic tool just for sculpting. So, like you see here, like I said, the higher the brush size, or the smaller brush size, the higher the poly count, and vice versa. So this also works if you want to reduce points, which you do by holding on the Shift key. So now you can see that we're reducing it. You can also see that by holding the Shift key, the color turns this like a yellow yellow-orange color, and by default it's set to this purple color here. So you know that when you hold down the Shift key and it turns orange, you're reducing the points here. So with the bigger the brush size, the more you're gonna reduce it. This is just super cool.
Yeah, and these are things you can adjust. Let's say you can't make your brush big enough or whatever. You can always fiddle around with the subdivide, undivide, size and ratio.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit now. So what what you can do here now, you can do some pretty cool stuff. You can like reduce, you can like cut stuff off like this. This here is super powerful.
Yeah.
Because this here used to be a real pain in the ass to do. Like with Dynamesh, you have to put an object in the middle here, and you have to like Dynamesh it and cut it off. And now you can just do this and
just erase it.
You just erase this little feat.
It's really nice, actually. It's a really cool way of quickly just cutting stuff off your object. We did experiment with it, and it doesn't seem like you can actually cut holes through your model with it. Because it needs to
if you want to do this.
Yeah, something needs to be different with the algorithm in order for it to allow this. But maybe cut a hole traditionally with like some trim brushes and clip rectangle brush or something.
This is not a replacement for Dynamesh.
No.
Or any of the other tools. This is not like we're only using Sculptris Pro mode now. This is just to enhance it.
Yeah.
Like you can use this perfectly well with Dynamesh as well. So let's talk about the settings here. So adaptive size here means that the details vary based on your brush size. If you disable this, you can see that if a brush size is big or small, super small brush, super big brush, same density. This is really useful. Then we have combined. This is combining, dividing, and undividing. It's essentially decimating and tessellating at the same time.
So it's adding resolution while subtracting resolution.
Yeah. So sometimes your resolution here or your performance can get a bit slow if you're sculpting with this. You can make it better by disabling the combine button here. Because
then it only has to do one action.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't have to worry about doing two actions at once.
Yeah. So the ZBrush docs are saying that they've experienced performance issues between like a few 100,000 and a few million polys.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you should never really go above like this. You shouldn't be sculpting 10 million polys with this. This here would be
probably not.
You're sculpting this level here, and then you just subdivide it normally. This is not a replacement for regular subdivision. When I've had students, they've often had issues with the concept of subdivision versus just Dynameshing something. And the way you do this, you work until your base is fine. Once this little dude here is good, perfectly fine right now. We're just going to subdivide him normally. You could see your meshing subdivided. This is not a replacement for subdivisions at all.
It is important to note, though, that while you're in Sculptris Pro mode, you can't work with subdivisions.
No.
So, you can subdivide now, but then you can't work on your mesh.
No,
so
absolutely.
It has to be a mesh with no subdivision levels on it.
So the settings here are essentially a higher number means lower poly count. So if we take this up here now and we start sculpting, you can see that now it's reducing the poly count here. And if we increase it even more, you can see that now it's just destroying the mesh here. I would be careful about putting this too low, because this is just going to create like a black hole of density, and it's just going to destroy the universe and your mesh.
Yeah, ZBrush might crash.
Yeah, ZBrush might crash. Yeah, that's what happens to me a few times when I play with this, and it goes way too low, and it just goes boom, and ZBrush is gone. The same with the other one here as well. If you, just by default, you can see what happens now by holding the Shift key. Let's increase the number here. And you can now see that this is now, the number here is now, it's being reduced instead.
Yeah, so when you're doing this with the adaptive size and combined, sort of like it tries to preserve your sculpted detail, but it also tries to remove detail in smoother areas.
Yes. So, if you want to, if you don't want to work on adaptive on, then this is the number it's going to be based on. So let's set this here back to default. So all these settings here are also global by default. You can disable this or make it brush specific if you go under brush. And then we have a Sculptris Pro mode, and here use global, and here you can change this based on the brush. So this is really useful if you for some reason want to have brush specific settings for Sculptris Pro mode. I haven't really found a use for that yet. So
because you can just turn off Sculptris Pro mode.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but maybe if you don't want to turn it on and off constantly, you could set up something there.
Yeah, exactly. Because you could. I just hit the key.
Yeah, it seems much easier just to use the hotkey.
Yeah. So let's say you have enough resolution here. Let's say you enable Sculptris Pro mode again, and you've sculpted enough around the eyes, and you have enough resolution here now. I mean, I probably wouldn't use Sculptris Pro much further. I would just disable it and just sculpt normally, because there isn't any reason to keep adding resolution to everything just because just
because you can.
Just because you can. Just feel free to just disable the mode here. So to just sum up this here, pretty much all brushes will work with Sculptris Pro. What's not going to work is insert mesh brushes, vector brushes or vector displacement brushes, or any kind of fancy brush which adds points to the model like this. Like for instance, the morph brush obviously isn't going to work because you're changing the poly count here.
It has to be a brush that modifies the existing surface.
Yes, exactly.
Except for the move brush,
which doesn't work.
So it's like a way to. I mean, I think it makes sense, because then you have technically a move brush and a snake hook brush, and you can always lower the intensity of the snake hook brush to get a moving, tessellating piece of geometry.
Yeah, and you can also, if let's say you're doing this and you want to move the move brush and you want to add points to it, just smooth it, and you get that. But the snake hook brush, best thing ever now. Like, it's super cool.
Actually useful.
It's actually useful. That's been one of the things before I've just been using to like push and pull a little bit here.
Yeah.
But now you can actually use it for some crazy stuff here. You can just see how quickly we can just change this up here to make this super nice little
looks like a Pokemon
thing. Yeah, yeah. That was what I was going for. But you're gonna see how quickly you can just add resolution to stuff now. If you want to add give them little arms, and you can just really quickly do this now. This here is reducing my use of something like C-spheres a lot, just because you can just super quickly just add this.
Yeah.
If you want more resolution to this now, you just make your brush size smaller, and you can just start refining this.
It's super intuitive to work with, very quick as well.
Really good job to the guys over at Pixologic, because this is a really fantastic tool here. So with all this said, we really hope that this here has been useful for you, and that you learned something about Sculptris Pro.
For sure. And you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.